Welcome to 20 Years, 20 Voices, an oral history of Richardson, Texas. This project began, as so many do in Richardson, after a casual conversation between friends. It was developed by the Leadership Richardson Alumni Association in cooperation with Altrusa International of Richardson, City of Richardson Arts Commission, Richardson Living Magazine, Richardson Public Library, Richardson Women's Club, Richland College, and the University of Texas at Dallas. As the project evolved, the selection of citizens to be interviewed followed the broad areas of study for participants in the Richardson Chamber of Commerce's Leadership Richardson program. In 2005, these include business and economic development, city government, cultural arts, education, healthcare, public safety, and social services. 24 leaders were interviewed representing these aspects of the community, sharing their stories, insights, and perspectives. This series of interviews continues and enhances the oral history of Richardson recorded in 1984 and 1985.
I think you really truly don't know where you're going until you really understand where you've been. And I think so many problems we face now have their roots in historical phenomena. And looking at those things and looking at the people who dealt with those problems, their skill sets, the way they handle themselves, their leadership qualities is amazing.
I really do believe in servant leadership. I truly do believe that people that lead have to be willing to serve. I tried to listen to everyone. I couldn't always make them happy, but I could genuinely express my concern and my understanding from where they were coming from.
You know, they were willing to do the things that it took to solve the problem. I don't ever remember having a big problem with any bond issue program except the service center. We lost that by 5 votes and vowed we'd never do that again. And now that's the place where all the city vehicles and so forth are maintained. The library, the rec centers, all of those things are just, the people in this community want them, they know what they're for, they appreciate them, and as long as you're leading them in that direction and taking care of those things, they work with you and help it happen. And help it happen is Richardson, Texas.
I think the genius of this relationship is that at no time have I ever approached the city, nor the city approached the university, where either party is dug in. You know, we've always said, look, this is an area where there is some potential disagreement, and we're going to sit down and work it out. And sometimes it was short, sometimes it was long. A classic example is Floyd Avenue. When I first came to university, the biggest problem with the community was the traffic on Floyd Avenue. I mean, they thought that the university was a bad citizen, cars flying up and down the streets, and the city came to us and said, could you help us with this? You know, can you cut off the traffic on Floyd Avenue? Well, we cut off the traffic on Floyd Avenue. That's the main interest of the university. So we worked at it, and we worked at it. Finally, they agreed to build a new road that was called University Boulevard if we agreed to close off the turns into the campus from Floyd Road. And that was a questionable strategy, but it worked out perfectly.
When the meeting was set up, it was going to be a little confrontational. So on the way down there, I'm thinking, you know, that's probably not the best way to get something done. We decided that we would talk about some good things that can happen. You know, what about if we did this, and what if we did that? And instead of saying, we don't like what you're doing, we want to do this, what if we, you know, just kind of introduced it and get him, to try to get him excited about it. So we sat down and we had our coffee and started sketching. There was a napkin, but it wasn't the eagle. It was a Madeline. We drew some things on what was Dillard's property, and we said, oh, Don's, you know, we have this developer out there, which is Hunt Petroleum. They have this land. Why don't we instead put a station there in this brownfield, in this greenfield area, and then we can do some, maybe some, you know, we do a hotel, and maybe Nortel would be interested in doing some things. We could have this plaza area where we can bring this, the workers, the tech workers out after work, they can go there and they can, you know, we can celebrate and have bands and whatever, and that's how that started. And then what we ended up doing is not very long after that, we had a big announcement at the Canyon Creek Country Club and got those participants to come together and announce that we're going to do this. We didn't have approval from anyone. I mean, we didn't, the dartboard hadn't done this, the board of Nortel hadn't said they're going to build buildings. We certainly hadn't figured out how we were going to get the money to do anything, let alone fund an arts center and a hotel, but we knew that's what we wanted to do. And so that's what we announced. That was our plan, and then it came to pass.
I thought it was interesting when we got ready to buy the land that was the YW. It's now the land that is owned by First Methodist Church across from where they're building. Jack and Ray and a bunch of other people who didn't have the money to back it up signed the note to buy that property. And it was sort of funny because, you know, well, what if something happens? We don't have that kind of money. I mean, it wasn't that terribly expensive, a little over $100,000, but none of us had the money and we signed the note.
One of the things that I noticed about Richardson, and because Richland College serves a number of communities, and I have been on chambers in all of those communities and played roles and so on. One of the things that I noticed and was delighted in with the city of Richardson that was qualitatively different at times was that the Chamber of Commerce, the City Council, the Public School Board, all these folks worked well together, the city staff. It wasn't a competitive thing, and when we talked about economic development, the city and the chamber were working together, and the school board said, you know, how can we help with that? And Richland College was there, and so I saw this wonderful partnership between key players, and you know, then the medical community started growing, and they were players, and you know, I've had a chance to serve on I think it was called the Richardson General Hospital at the time, something like that, on that board and others. And
Richardson had a hospital that was privately owned by 4 businessmen on Spring Valley Road. And over the years, this small hospital became financially unstable, and I think there was a drive by the city management, city council to create a much larger facility that would provide a higher level of services of health care in the community. And so the city council actually created an organizational entity as a governmental entity called Richardson Hospital Authority, and that was activated in the mid-60s. And from there, on Spring Valley, that hospital was later sold to the Richardson Hospital Authority, and then they worked to close that as they opened a new campus at the Campbell Road location.
Our job with the city is to provide a service that is in keeping with the philosophy that city management and the city council want this city to put forth. And there is a very strong, and there always has been, and we train our officers to understand this, always has been a very strong fellowship and partnership with some of the major components of this city. The school district. We have a very strong and very close relationship with our school district. The city does. Well, so does the police department. We work with them on a daily basis. I have a sergeant that's basically assigned to the school district. The sergeant supervises all those school resource officers. 90% of his work is working through the school district to keep that partnership alive and to keep it strong.
A lot of our success in attracting businesses to this community and our success in being able to attract some of the best doctors in the industry is because of the good school system we have here. And you know, I get asked about the schools from a lot of people that interview here, and they say, you know, what private school do you send your kids to? And I tell them that you don't understand. The public system is the best. And we've got some wonderful people and a wonderful achievement there that's where you will want your kids to go to school.